Hello, mutants. I'm Utisha, the movie goddess, and you're watching Mutant TV.
Whoa! What's up, MVP? Strubo here with you again from mutantville.com. And I've just come out of the theater after watching Paranormal Activity Part 3. It runs in the family. Discover how the activity began. So, Paranormal Activity 3 essentially tells the story of some girls that just want to have fun with things that go bump in the night, so to speak. I reviewed the first two Paranormal Activity movies for you after theatrical viewings. I was really a big advocate for the first movie. I was able to get out and see it during its limited theatrical run before it blew up and made 100 million nationwide. So I found myself pleasantly surprised when the second one came out, and I thought it kind of repeated a lot of the spooky feats of the first one. But I found myself feeling very skeptical when the third one was announced, feeling that, where could they go with this? They introduced Katie in the first one and her little paranormal activity adventures, and they introduced her sister Christy in the second one. So, what's the third one going to do? Introduce another sister or a brother? No, instead the producers take it back in time to when Katie and Christy are both little kids, and they are living with their mom and her new husband, Dennis. Dennis is a videographer, does a lot of weddings to pay the bills. The mom, Julie, her profession is never quite defined, but apparently she's well off enough to be able to support Dennis and his profession, because apparently wedding videographers don't bring in a lot of money. I know a little bit about that myself, because if you're any kind of amateur filmmaker, you've shot some kind of wedding at one point or another. But that's neither here nor there. So they're raising these kids, and Dennis starts noticing these weird things happening around the house, and since he's already a videographer, a film buff of his own, he decides, well, hey, I'll just set up some cameras and try to capture everything that's happening around here, and we'll kind of get to the bottom of this. So that's the basic gimmick that one has to be willing to accept going into a Paranormal Activity movie, that it is all found footage, though it's kind of edited found footage, if you will. And you have to accept that these people are going to record through moments when they might not necessarily be recording, like such as recording himself watching video. I mean, that's kind of wacky. I mean, who would do that? But it's okay. It didn't destroy my sense of disbelief, so I was able to go with it. I don't want to get into too much of the plot itself, because even if you haven't seen Paranormal Activity 1 and you haven't seen Paranormal Activity 2, you can go in and just watch this movie on its own. It stands on its own. It's cool in the overall timeline and storyline and continuity of the Paranormal Activity universe that it ties in to the other two films, and you see how it all began and what's really behind it all. And in essence, it adds a whole nother layer to the paranormal activity that's plaguing this family. But I don't want to tell you what that is, because if you haven't seen the first one, you haven't seen the second one, you can go see this one. Go see it in the theater. Just watch it for what it is. It's a fun little spook show. One thing, I thought the casting was excellent. I thought the actors that played Dennis and Julie were much more likable than like Katie and Micah from the first one, or from the second one, Christy and her stuffed shirt boyfriend. I can't even remember his name now. I thought they were much more likable. I really liked Dennis. I felt like I could watch a whole movie with him, and Julie was like uber cute as the mom of Christy and Katie. So it was very interesting. Those are a lot of the pros. Let's get to the cons. Okay, the cons. It's a found footage movie. What does that mean right off the bat? It means ugly ass cinematography. Ugly cinematography. There's probably not a single shot in this movie that looks good. If Kubrick saw this, he would probably get up and if he was in the theater watching this, he would probably walk into the projection room and just rip the film off the projector and smash it on the ground, just because it just photographs ugly reality, and it's not artistic in any way, shape, or form. And even though the first two movies, you know, they had the same kind of constraints, I felt like they brought more of a gothic sensibility with just the way the camera angles were used, and the shots of rooms were just repeated over and over and over again. So you had this kind of empty room motif that was going on over and over and over, and building this tension and building tension and building tension until, you know, the air is just pregnant with possibility, and you're like, I know something is going to jump out from somewhere. And usually it does, of course. But I felt like this movie didn't use that tension quite as well. I felt like it kind of just used more cheap jump scares and that kind of stuff. A lot more parlor tricks. I felt like it was, you know, obviously very derivative of the first one. I mean, it's Paranormal Activity 3. What are you going to do? But what's the first rule of the drive-in, according to Joe Bob Briggs? If you're going to make a sequel, make the same movie over. The makers of Paranormal Activity managed to make the same movie over 3 times. The third time out, they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're giving people what they want to see, you know, the time-lapse photography, the jump cuts, you know, the realistic acting, the sudden surprises, jumps, boo scares, what have you. So I think the addition of the oscillating camera was a nice little touch, because it added this tension where you would see what was happening on one side of the room, then the camera would move back, and you wouldn't know during the time that it was off the subject, anything could happen. So by the time it came back, there was usually some kind of boo scare set up at the end of it. All in all, I have to say it was a good spooky entry into the series. It did its job well. Like, it's not reinventing the wheel, but it works as a sequel for the Paranormal Activity series. Though I'd have to say, I think it's probably the weakest one of the series. Yeah, just because it's just so derivative, and I don't think it's quite as atmospheric as the first two were. But that's just me. I've actually had some people that were able to see it before myself tell me that they thought it was the best in the series. So, you know, kudos to the filmmakers all around. You did a good job, whether people think it was great or just good or what have you. If you're looking for a good, spooky, scary movie to see this Halloween, I'd definitely say go see Paranormal Activity. It's a great date movie. It's a great family movie. It's just a great movie if you want to get out and get the shit scared out of you. So take it from me. I actually had advance tickets to go see an early screening of it last week, but just came down to money at the last minute. I was just like, I just can't afford to drive back and forth back to Durham and back this week, and I got to do all this stuff this weekend because, you know, we're working on our own movie, Ghost. Cheap plug for us. We're getting our own full-length feature ready for screening next weekend, just the cast and crew. So I'm doing a lot of driving myself, and I just couldn't make the screening. But I'm glad I finally got to get out and review it for you. I guess this is going to be the last of the Halloween reviews, unless I do some kind of video on demand or DVD review, possibly Red State, or maybe Human Centipede, the second part of that series, or maybe even Tucker and Dale, but I don't know. We'll see. I got a lot of work to do over the next few days. We've got our exclusive interview with John Carpenter coming up. That's probably enough promotion for now. Let's move on to the Strebo slasher stats. I think there's a couple scratches in this movie, a lot of boos, a lot of darkness, a lot of waiting around to see what's going to happen, things moving off screen. So, you know, effects wise, gorehound wise, you know, people that are looking for that kind of carnage, you're not going to find it. I don't want to tell you what you are going to see, because these are movies you just need to go and experience. You're either down with the cause and you go and you watch them and you enjoy them, or it's the kind of thing that you just avoid because it clashes completely with your sensibilities. I say check it out. On the Strebo Screamometer, I'm going to give Paranormal Activity 3 ding, a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. Good solid score. I think it's lower than the scores I gave the other two, but what do you expect? It's a sequel. It is what it is, but it did a good job. It's a damn spooky sequel. I say check it out. This is Strebo from Mutantville.com. You can find me at Mutantville.com. I'll be there all Halloween. We're making our own movies. We're doing reviews. We're bringing you interviews. We're having a good time. Talk to me on the IMDb, Dead Pit, wherever you are. Doesn't matter. I'll be on Exploited Cinema for the Halloween episode this coming weekend. Check that out. We're going to talk about rock and roll horror films. Yeah, that's a crazy discussion. So, anyway, it was good. Go see it. What are you waiting for?
You're watching Mutant TV.